Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Sajid here for Pack Passion, bringing you another exclusive interview. Delighted to have this guest once again. He's a regular on Pack Passion, always interests our readers, and he's an expert on pace bowling, former Essex cricketer, coached all around the world, Bangladesh Premier League. He's worked at the PSL and many other tournaments as well. He's worked with some great names over the years, including Shoaib Akhtar and many others. And he has a very successful pace bowling academy in the UK, which is producing a lot of very good cricketers. Delighted to have once again with me, Ian Pont. Ponty, nice to see you.
Saj, thanks for having me back on again. Always a delight to chat about cricket.
Well, the thing is, Ponty, you know, as Pakistanis, we love talking about fast bowling. And, you know, who else than better than to have yourself here?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that we've just been, you know, we'll dive in, I guess, into the Champions Trophy stuff. But one thing about the Champions Trophy is you do get to see what's on offer pace-wise from around the world. And sometimes when you will look at bowling attacks, you see them missing a few people. It can really impact. I mean, we'll talk about that as we go. But
Course, yes.
yes, it's an interesting time.
Briefly, let's talk about England, Ponty, because they had a horrible tournament, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, they've been off the boil. They were struggling in India before the Champions Trophy, and something didn't seem right. What did you make of their efforts?
I think it's been a challenge for them. It looks to me behind the scenes, maybe it's behind the curtain, as they say, it's not quite right there. They've made some interesting selection. I mean, where English cricket had gone, if I take it back a couple of years when Brendan McCullum came in, and Ben Stokes was basically leading the front at that time, and he was reasonably injury free. They were starting to build this kind of feeling of almost being bulletproof. You know, let's just go and play this game of cricket. Let's go out and thrash the ball around and have fun with it all and all that stuff. And I think that works to a degree. Part of the problem has been for England, and it is on the batting as much as it is on the bowling front, is that they can sometimes not be carefree but careless. And if you get careless, what happens is you lose wickets at silly times. I know all teams can do this. I'm not just picking specifically on England, but it's been noticeable with English cricket that it seems to it's gone on this roller coaster ride where it's been great for the fans. But listen, no one wants to watch their team lose. And England, you're quite right, have had a horrible tournament. I just think that they haven't quite listen, there's some great players in county cricket, don't get me wrong. I just think they haven't quite got the balance of that side right. They haven't quite got the mindset of the batters right. And the challenge is if you can't defend totals or you can't get past the opponent's total, you just got to win games of cricket. Simple as. I think a lot of the basics in the game sometimes players almost lose their head because there seems to be an excuse, a culture. This is across all teams. That if you get out, that's okay because you were giving it a go. Rather than we're going to knock it around, we're going to build an innings, we're going to what I call old-fashioned cricket, which is basically the fundamentals of the game. Sometimes, Saj, in white ball cricket, they get a little bit lost. And I think in T20, because it's such a short tournament, you know, you can almost get it wrong a little bit for a couple of overs. In 50 overs, you can't because they're much longer versions. And you get found out. And I think that's what's happened in this tournament to England.
You said nobody likes to see the team lose, but as a Pakistani, we're getting used to it, Ponty. Same again at the Champions Trophy disaster. You know, first ICC tournament in Pakistan for, 29 years. They don't win a game. It was just horrible. What did you make of Pakistan's performance?
I mean, I think in a way they got the same disease that England has got. You know, they're coming at it from a different place. Diametrically different, but they've got to the same spot, which is what actually are we doing as a team? You know, I'm a massive fan of role clarity. Like if you and I are playing in a team stage together, what's your job? What's my job? Go and do that specific role. There is such a lot of white ball cricket, but it's T20 based. The 50 over format, which has become kind of questionable over time, I don't know how much emphasis is being put on that longer version of the game because it's a mini version of Test cricket in a way in terms of sometimes how you think, and there are quiet periods in the match. You know, the centre overs in T20. There's virtually none of those because people are still going. But in 50 overs there are, and you are allowed to rebuild. But Pakistan cricket, it's always been like this. But I think specifically in this tournament, there was a lot of pressure on the selectors getting the squads right. I mean, we can question whether they got the squads right or not. There's a lot of emphasis from the fans because, as you said, for 29 years, the first time they had all these teams coming in, and not the PSL, but all these sides coming in, they're seeing it. The media attention is there. Do the players feel the pressure? Yeah, I'm sure they do, but they are international cricketers. I just think it's up here, Saj. It's never been a problem with talent. I mean, as I said, multiple podcasts with you, we're getting sick of saying talent in Pakistan. We're sick of it. At some point, everyone has to get their act together, same page, and say, this is how we're playing it. This is your role. This is what we're doing. Pakistan was shocking in this tournament, and at home as well. You've got nowhere to go with it. And I felt very sorry for the fans, to be honest with you.
Only as a pace bowling coach, you'll have been, keeping a close eye on innovations and anything that caught your eye from the pace bowlers at the Champions Trophy. Obviously, the pitches in Pakistan and Dubai aren't really great for the pacers, but did you see anything new that interested you, that impressed you from any of the pacers?
I think 50 overs are kind of becoming an anomaly in cricket because it's the one that's possibly played least of all, or it seems to be the one that's getting the least attention. Test cricket is always the pinnacle. T20 is where the money is. And you've almost got this now bridge between the two. When it comes to innovation, that's coming from T20 cricket. We do see a lot of slower balls in 50 overs. We see a lot of, slow ball bouncers. We see a lot of them bowling to fields, pushing the batters wider, bowling to an offside field. But as I said, this is a much more thought out process, 50 overs. You have to have more than just a box of tricks. You've got to be able to have consistency. And I think sometimes the quicks in particular, they forget how to bowl 60 balls. They're forgetting how to bowl 10 overs because they're bowling 4 overs or they're playing Test cricket. And a lot of those guys who aren't playing Test are playing T20s. So are they bowling enough overs? Are they working a plan out and sticking to it? Sometimes, Saj, cricket, as a bowler, cricket can be to bore out the batsman, to make it hard for them to score. What's happened to maidens? That's okay. It's actually okay as a batter as well to play out a few maidens because you can play catch up again. And that old-fashioned skill, which was Test cricket skill, can I get the ball in the right area? We talk about hitting the top of off stump. Am I bowling in that channel? The new ball's going to swing. There's 2 new balls in the game, one each end. They're gonna swing. They're gonna reverse less because obviously the balls are new at each end. So you do get less reverse in that situation. We have to bear that in mind. Coaches would understand that. Was there a due factor at times? It's the things you have to consider. But I think sometimes when you see it, fast bowlers have lost the ability to think about where to bowl in 50 overs cricket. So I didn't see any innovation in that sense. But what I saw was the sides that performed better were more consistent with the control of the ball. And it's an obvious thing to say, but it's magnified more in 50 overs.
Shaheen Shah, the Haris Rauf, Naseem Shah, 3 big names, big reputations, Pont, but they didn't seem to be at their best during the Champions Trophy, did they?
No, they didn't. And this comes back again to bowler's confidence. I wasn't an international player, but a first-class bowler. If you start getting taken apart a little bit in the power play, or you're not taking wickets, you get deflated because you're going to be bowling 10 overs. And if you haven't picked up wickets early on, the opposition are 50, 60 for none, 70 for none. It's not so bad in T20 because it's going to be over quite fast. 50 overs, it seems like you're out there forever. And actually, it's a very difficult situation mentally to cope with. So if you're not picking up those wickets and you're not joining the dots to get maidens in the scorebook, it's a long afternoon out in the field. It's actually quite hard. They didn't perform well. Did the ball swing around a little bit? They're white kookaburras. They got a little bit of shape to them. Was there anything in the surfaces? Not really for the bowlers. And the thing is, Sage, if you're going to find that, You're going to have to find that in the first 10 or 15 overs. Otherwise, it's pitches are just basically there's a batter having a net then, aren't you? So I think it was very difficult. The pitches didn't help anybody. There wasn't that control that you'd expect. Just think it was so lackluster from Pakistan. Really disappointing, as I said, and at home as well. I don't know what the fans were thinking in Pakistan, but they must have got some hounding on the media, definitely for that.
Yeah, they're definitely not happy, Ponty, and that's why I think there's been all these changes to the squads now that are going to go to New Zealand. Obviously, Rizwan and Babar are out, and Rizwan's lost the T20 captaincy as well. I want to ask you about a tweet that you did, Ponty, that became quite famous. I think it went viral, didn't it? About the integrity of the ICC and having these tournaments and everybody having a level playing field. Can you elaborate on what you meant?
Yeah, well, of course I can do that. The challenge is and it is a challenge, if you have a country that is okay to visit and is cleared as safe and secure, all countries should go and play in that tournament. And we know that India didn't. India, for the reasons we know, they're geopolitical as well as a security issue from their end, say we will not be going to Pakistan anytime soon. So what happens is, and I blame the ICC a little bit, well, quite a lot here actually. We know India's stance. Now, knowing that stance, if you then say we're going to hold this in Pakistan and you then know India aren't going to come, you're straight away creating a tournament where one of the teams has a huge advantage because by default they're then in Dubai. They are not traveling very far. They're sitting in their hotel, having food, going back and forth to the ground, and they are playing at the same venue all of the time. Other sides are traveling all over the place. Pitches and things, conditions vary all over the. You don't know who you're playing, where and when. India knew exactly where they were playing all of the time. That is a massive advantage. I'm sorry, but it is. And when we're talking at this level of cricket, 1 or 2% at the top makes the difference. These are big advantages. Now, who do you blame for that? Well, India have made that decision. The BCC have decided they're not going to go to Pakistan. And, you respect that. I don't agree with it. I'm not Indian, so that I'm sure every Indian fan would be screaming at me right now saying that because they would say, this is the reason we don't go. The rest of the world goes there, and I've been out there, and I feel safe and secure. But if you don't think you are going to be safe and secure, you have a right to say no. As a board, they've said no. So you have this problem. So if you're going to award Pakistan an international competition, you're going to have India excluded. So you either don't have India, which is never going to happen because they have 70% of world revenues in cricket. And we want to watch we want to see India play wherever they play. We want to see Pakistan and India. That's the entire point to this. Or you say you can play somewhere else. Or you relocate the whole thing to another country, then you're penalizing Pakistan because India won't come. So we know this. So my tweet was to say, the ICC have to sort this out. They do. It is unfair. I understand it. Listen, it's not a political thing on my end. I understand why they don't want to go. I don't agree with it. But then if you're going to have the competition, you've got to sort that out somehow. And good luck to the ICC, because it's a perennial situation. Listen, in our lifetime, Saj, I hope we can see all of those two countries, both those countries playing each other in each other's country. I mean, that would just be absolute heaven to see that. And then say, listen, let's go and do this properly. It's easy to say, is it going to happen anytime soon? I don't think so. So what do? Do you have, does Pakistan always then get sidelined as a country that's hosting? And then you always allow India an advantage to be at a single location. The other way you could have done it with India, and it would have been a bit silly, was to have them zoom around UAE and play at different venues, I suppose, because at least then they would have traveled a little bit. But there's no easy answer, Saj. But yeah, the tweet went viral. I wasn't having a go at India or Indian fans. I was just trying to point out this is the problem we've got. And all of us, if we take off our rose-tinted glasses for a second, all of us want to see the best players in the world playing each other in a tournament. And that's all we want. Whether they're in the IPL or the PSL, Pakistan players used to play in the IPL, and obviously that was a situation that altered. So we were starting to make some ground there. Maybe someday that could return, but right now I can't see it.
We'll have to talk about the replies you got to that tweet maybe one day, Ponty, but we'll save that for maybe we can do an episode on its own, going through the replies. But I can
There were
just
enough.
imagine
There
what
were
they were
enough
like.
of them. I think it had 2.5 million views or something.
All right, okay, nice one. The 50 over format, Ponty. There's been some question marks over the future of the 50 over format, and obviously it seems to be down the pecking order at the moment. Do you think the Champions Trophy tournament has done anything to boost the 50 over format?
I think it has. Um, you can see by the fans. The grounds are full. People want to see the cricket. I think at the end of the day, the fans aren't particularly fussed whether it is a T20 or a 50 over or a test match if they're passionate about their team. Why I like 50 overs is it is part of that triumvirate, those three skill sets that you need: test cricket, 50 and T20. There aren't that many batters or bowlers who are successful across all three. There are people that play obviously test cricket, and then there are people that play white ball, but to be successful across all of the formats is a challenge in itself. I wouldn't like to see 50 overs disappear completely. I understand why it's sidelined because it's financial. But it was started off with 60 overs, if you remember, I think. And then it's reduced down to 50. We've had it the best part of 40 plus years. T20, by comparison, is a baby. It's an infant by comparison to the other two formats. I'd like to see 50 overs continue. I understand why people think, oh, it's a bit dull, it's a bit boring. But do you know what? I'm quite old school. There's parts of that game that are really played up in the mind. And you can still have the funky fields, you can still do your crazy stuff, and you can change a game. The other thing about 50 overs, Saj, is you have time to rectify a mistake. If you get it wrong with the bat or you get it wrong with the ball, you've got time to play catch up. T20 is like microwave cricket. It's ding, bing, ping, and it's ready to go. Test cricket, 5 days, you can read a book, come back, nothing's happened. I get that. So 50 overs, for me, is still valid competition. I think the Champions Trophy is good. The format just needs to be tweaked slightly in terms of where they're hosting it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought there was some good cricket. There was some terrible cricket played as well, but there's some good stuff. I enjoyed it.
And finally, Ponty, we've seen India lift another ICC tournament. They're
Yeah.
a dominant force in the world of cricket on and off the field. As somebody who keeps a close eye on innovations and academies and how young players are being produced around the world, what is India getting right that the rest of the world can learn from?
Well, 3 letters really, IPL. I mean, that's what's funded everything in India, and that's what's encouraged the kids. I mean, I went out to India for the first time probably 15, 18 years ago, and if you asked the young lads what they wanted to be, they'd never say a fast bowler. They always wanted to be batters because their heroes were all batters. And in Pakistan, the heroes were all fast bowlers. So it's no surprise when you go to Pakistan, they want to be Shoaib Akhtar or Wasim Akram or Waqar Yunis. And in Pakistan, they want to be Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar, or they wanted to be a Dhoni. What's changed that, I think, has been with the T20 competition coming, a lot of money coming to them, and PSL is catching up. I don't think it'll ever catch them up financially. It's catching up in terms of, and you could argue in certain areas it's as good as or maybe slightly better in some of the bowling. But these domestic competitions actually do fuel the next generation. And look, they have over 1 billion people living in that country, and you're going to find one or two decent cricketers that are that number. You just are numerically, which is why it's incredible that New Zealand are so good. I mean, in a way, the conversation shouldn't be why is India so good. It's why is New Zealand so good? Because they've got sort of 4 people and 5 sheep, and that's about it. I'm joking, but they've got so it's almost the size of Scotland population-wise. But they are fantastic, and at rugby as well. They're just sensational. So it's sometimes about money. A lot of the time, it's also about inspiring players. But it's having access to good coaching. And I think the Indian coaching system is probably really good right now. I mean, I've been at many times myself. I've seen it improve. If I directly tie it into Pakistan, I'm not seeing that quite as much in Pakistan at the moment. So that's one area I think Pakistan, the PCB definitely could pick up on, is the level of coaching that's going on. But India's got it right. look, it's a big steamroll. It's a machine at the moment, and the machine is rolling. You could almost change that team that played, excuse me, for another half a team or team, and they would have still done well in the tournament. They got that many players. When it comes specifically to fast bowlers, this is all about production line. If you have enough fast bowlers, if they get injured, you can replace them. If you've only got 2 or 3 and they have a bad tournament, who have you got coming in? That's the problem. But I just think they're a big machine right now, and they're funded well, and that's why they're right at the top.
Ollie, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure listening to your passionate views about the world of cricket, and I'm sure we'll catch up very shortly. Cheers,
Cheers, mate.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to it. Thanks. Cheers.